Are you happy with the defending you're getting in midfield? Because it seems like sometimes your fullbacks are being hung out to dry, and yet other times we see Michael Bradley playing like a centre back.
Uh, yes and no. I mean, it depends. I think, when we are attacking going forward out of our possessions and we look to get pressure in transition, I think we actually did a pretty good job. They were forced to hit balls long. I think when their only target in the grand scheme of things was a Quincy Amarikwa, and we had two center backs near, I don't think he should ever touch the ball. We have to work more as two guys against that one guy to make sure that he doesn't get to secure the ball and bring guys into the attack. Unfortunately, he was able to hold us off. We were left, we were leaving ourselves sort of in a 1v1. Quincy was really posting up with JMO a lot and was able to hold up balls that were played out to him, and then guys were sprinting off of that and they were starting attacks. But because of the good midfield pressure and the good forward pressure, they couldn't play through us. They were having to play over us, and we have to deal with that a little bit better. Having said that, in the times where we lose balls and we transition, we've got to recover quicker as a collective group. We've got to get our blocks together. That means our defenders have to get reorganized, and our midfield has to get back into good positions and help our back line. So it's yes and no. I mean, as a collective group, we haven't defended well enough in the past couple games for sure. But it also starts with individual defending has to be better, and then the collective defending can come with that as well.
Joe Bendik has almost divided fans in the last couple weeks. What have you made of your goalkeeper's performance in the last few games?
I think he's made some good saves, and I think he's not made some saves that I think he would be the first one to say that he probably should save. So Joe is a part of the defense, as we are all a part of the defense as a team, and we've got to be better. We've allowed too many goals and too many what I would call fairly easy goals because we've had numbers or the right numbers of people around the ball or around the play to deal with it, and we haven't. And Joe is one of those numbers. At the end of the day, Joe's got to come up with the saves that he's got to come up with, and usually if you're going to keep a clean sheet or get a game, he's got to come up with one or two saves maybe that he kind of just pulls out of somewhere, and he has that ability. On the second goal, he's clearly screened and he sees it late. For me, Joe's got to make sure Justin gets out of his way and gets ahead of him. Justin doesn't need to track the player that deep. He's got to make sure Justin gets up. If Justin gets on the other side of him and he shoots the ball, he's offside in the end of the day. So that's just an individual. For me, it's an individual error compounded by a keeper not really getting him up, and we've got to be better than that because we're better than that, right, individually.
How did you read the free kick goal?
The free kick goal is for me unacceptable. They're quite simple. We have responsibilities. One of those is that we should have a blocker. Jeff Laurentowicz is not his first year in this league, and this is not his first free kick. We all know, and we've all discussed that he's going to hit it as hard as he can. Usually that means he's going to hit it back to the far post because when you're not bending the ball, you're not really putting it to the near post. So the wall could have been set a little bit more, maybe to the left. We have a guy who's responsible as a blocker, but because it was on a red card, I think he stepped away to then mark. But in a shooting range, it doesn't matter how many guys are marked or not marked. The first thing is to protect the goal on the shot, and we didn't assume that responsibility on the blocker because it would have helped on the touch to have a guy sprinting at him to take away at least part of the goal or maybe deflect the ball. Having said that, when the touch happens, Joe gets caught kind of going the wrong way, which opens up more of the back post, and he just doesn't get back to it soon enough. So for me, again, it's not one error. It's 3 or 4 collective errors that we know better. Guys have responsibilities and roles. They need to fulfill them, and we didn't deal with it.
How much of those, in situations like that, how much of the responsibility falls on the defender's shoulders, and then conversely, how much of it is on the goalkeeper's shoulders?
Well, as Joey knows, they all know what their responsibilities are. Where the question came on that one is there was a red card, which then takes one player out of his particular role, right? That player that was Warren, who was out of his particular role, but he was not the blocker. There was still somebody else who was supposed to be the blocker. But that blocker then took on the role of, say, Warren or somebody else who had to take, and then it became a trickle down. But it's prioritizing what's most important, right? What's most important in shooting distance is to protect the goal first and foremost. Don't worry about the guys being marked at the back post because they're not playing to those guys, right? So that's just for me a little bit of experience in recognizing what's most important in a given situation, which is protect the goal first and foremost. That's the priority.